Episode number 818. Talking on Eggshells with Angry People.
You're listening to the official BNI podcast with BNI founder and Chief Visionary Officer, Dr. Ivan Misner. Stay tuned for networking and referral marketing tips from the man who's been called the father of modern networking, along with suggestions and insights into getting the most from your membership in the world's largest networking organization, BNI.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the official BNI podcast. I'm Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio in Berkeley, California, and I'm joined on the phone today by the founder and the Chief Visionary Officer of BNI, Dr. Ivan Misner. Hello, Ivan. How are you, and where are you?
I am at home in Austin, Texas. It's the middle of July, and it is hot as blue blazes here, so it's another. The only thing hotter is August, which is really hot. So I have brought back on, and it's rare that I have a guest 2 weeks in a row, but I've asked Sam Horn, a really good friend of mine who I see almost every week, and she's a past member of the Transformational Leadership Council. I've asked her to come back again and talk about some material from her book, Talking on Eggshells. And this week we're going to talk about talking on eggshells with angry people. Sam's the CEO of the Intrigue Agency, or 3 TEDx talks and 10 books, including Tung Fu and Pop. She also did Got Your Attention, and one of my favorite books, Someday Is Not a Day in the Week. And her latest book is Talking on Eggshells. She's been featured in the New York Times and has taught to Oracle, Intel, and Accenture. And we are definitely going to have a link to her book here on this podcast, just like we did on the last podcast. So take a look at it. I highly, highly recommend her book. Sam, welcome back to BNI Podcast.
Oh boy. Thank you, Ivan. And I'm rocking and rolling. I hope people are ready to go. They've got their paper. They've got a vertical line down the center because we're going to talk about some more words to lose and words to use. Sound good?
Yeah, it does. And if you haven't listened to last week's podcast, I'd suggest you listen to it and then come back to this so that you have a quick start on what she's talking about. So let's start with my first question for you, Sam. What can we do if people are taking their anger or frustration out on us? Which, when you run an organization of over 300,000 people, guess what? That happens. And that happens locally in each chapter.
That's right. Well, 60-second story to show how this works, and then we'll fill in those 2 columns. So my Aunt Kay is 84 years old, and she volunteers at a hospital 5 days a week. She even did this during COVID. And I said, what was it like? She said, one word, stressful. I said, well, put me in a situation where someone was stressing you out, taking their anger out on you. And she said, a woman ran into the ER, held her phone up, said, I just got a text from my daughter. She's in the ER. She was in an accident. I've got to see her. Well, Aunt Kay called the ER. Someone was already with the daughter. And you may remember the policy was there was only 1 visitor per patient per day. She had to tell the mother she couldn't get in to see her daughter. The woman lost it. She's screaming, sobbing. Now, put in the left-hand column, impatient, and put in the 2 words, how rude. How rude. Why are you blaming me? This isn't my fault. I can't control it. However, instead of being impatient, Aunt Kay used these 4 words. Ready? Over on the right. How would I feel? How would I feel if it was my daughter in the ER and I couldn't get in to see her? It moved her from impatience to empathy, from contempt to compassion. It gave her the incentive to turn there's nothing into something. She's called the ER back. She said, who is with the daughter? It was the Uber driver who had brought the daughter in. She was able to thank him, explain it. And now, Ivan, once again, when people are taking their anger, we can react, hey, it's not my fault. I didn't make the rules.
Yeah.
How would I feel? And now we've got the incentive to turn there's nothing into there's something.
Well, what a great suggestion. I have to say I probably didn't follow that. When Elizabeth was sick and had to go into the hospital. It was, we didn't know it at the time, but she only had a few days to live. They wouldn't let me come in because of COVID. And I very calmly, I didn't get upset. I very calmly said, I think you'll need 2, maybe 3 of your biggest orderlies to stop me from walking in with her right now. And he looked at me and like, okay, fine. But I did say it calmly, at least.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What a great suggestion. I love that idea. It's very good. So, Sam, you think that the ISA, and you talk about it in the book, interpersonal situational awareness, ISA, is a rare and much needed job skill that can give us a competitive advantage. And I think that's very true for entrepreneurs. What is ISA, and give us an example?
Desmond Tutu actually has a quote that summarizes it the best I've ever heard. He said, "We've got to stop pulling people out of the river. We've got to go upstream and find out where they're falling in." So over on the left, put reactive. Over on the right, put proactive. And over on the left, put ignore the room. And over on the right, put read and lead the room. Now I get to tell a story about myself. I got a chance to work with Rod Laver, Grand Slam champion Rod Laver, right out of college. And so they appointed me to represent Palmetto Dunes, Laver Emerson Tennis at our Hilton Head Island board meeting. Oh, Ivan, forgive me. I was young, I was eager, and I was contributing my ideas. And after about 3 meetings, the general manager of the Hyatt pulled me aside and said, "Sam, I think you might want to sit on your hands." Ivan, I'd never heard that expression before. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Every person in that meeting is senior to you, and you're doing more talking than any of them." He said, "From now on, before you say anything, ask yourself, is it good timing? Is it welcome? Is it additive?" And part of ISA, interpersonal situation, is reading the room. Have I done more talking than my share?
Can you give those 3 things again? I want everyone to hear that.
Is it good timing?
Yeah.
Is it welcome?
Yeah.
Is it additive?
Yeah, very good. All right, I interrupted you. Sorry.
No, it's just, when Jeff Weiner, who was the CEO of LinkedIn, said this is the number one skill gap in the world. We can hire coders, we can hire techies, we cannot hire people with this ability to pay attention to nuance. Wait a minute, I'm talking to this person and I can tell they're tapping their foot and they want to get the heck out of there.
Right.
Stop talking, right? Or I'm requesting something and I can see that they've got their arms crossed and the answer is going to be no. It's like start responding and getting ahead of the room. You know what I call this, Ivan?
What?
Think upstream.
I love that. I love that. We have a phrase that I've been using in BNI for many years that's somewhat related, and it particularly applies to networking, is that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth and use them both proportionately. We should use them both proportionally. So you gotta listen more than you're talking, especially if you're talking to several people. Good. I love that. That ISA, and you talk about that at length in your book, yeah?
I sure do. And with lots of ways, once again, to be preventative, to anticipate when something's going to go wrong and to keep it from going wrong.
Well, talk about going wrong. If something has gone wrong and people are blaming each other, you have a way we can be a pattern interrupt and motivate people to find solutions rather than fault. What is that?
Yep. So let's put on the left, find fault. We've all had that situation. Something's gone wrong. People are finger pointing, fault finding, etc. Now is the time to do what's called a pattern interrupt. And guess what, Ivan? We don't start talking over them, because if people are yelling and we talk over them, what will they do?
Yeah, they'll just talk louder. They'll yell.
Yes, right. The voice of reason gets drowned out in the commotion. So instead, you play sports. In fact, you're very big into martial arts, right, Ivan?
Yes.
Okay, well, anyone who plays sports knows what a referee does when there's a fracas. He makes a T, right? Yep. Make a T with your hand and say time out, and then say these magic words: let's not do this. We could spend the rest of the afternoon arguing about who dropped the ball on this. It won't get this client back, or this won't help. This won't help. Do you see how stop it with a hand motion and then say, let's not do this. This won't help. And then you can actually use something that John F. Kennedy said. He said, our task is not to fix the blame for the past. It's to fix the course for the future.
Very good. We have a mutual friend who wrote a book called Solutions Focus. And that book talks a lot about focusing on the solutions rather than the problems, which is kind of what you're talking about.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. I love that. is, many of us use lots of time in meetings in person or online. What are your talking on eggshell tips for making them more purposeful and productive?
Ivan, I know that your podcast goes out to more than 75 countries, more than 300,000 people, and this tip is universal. Richard Branson said, time is the new money. And I think time is the new trust. And the clock starts ticking the second we start talking. And if we want people to trust us, we will keep our time promises. So in particular, here are 4 things we can do to make our meetings more purposeful and productive so that we keep our time promises. Number 1 is to have rules. It's like, Ivan, imagine if we just drove out on a road and there's no crosswalks, there's no traffic lights, it'd be chaos. We wouldn't be safe. Guess what? Most meetings have no rules. People can talk as long as they want to. They can interrupt each other. So post rules in advance so that there is etiquette on the call so people are treating each other with respect. Next one, we always start on time.
Can I just say, I think that's one of the reasons that BNI has been so successful is that everything is timed.
That's right.
The amount of time that you have to introduce yourself, the amount of time that you have to give a referral, the amount of time to be the featured speaker, everything is timed, which makes it very, very effective in getting through the whole process.
See, Ivan, it's huge. It is, go back to the power of that. Do you know what the definition of anxiety is?
What's that?
Not knowing. 2 words.
Yeah.
If we don't know how long this is going to take, if we don't know when they're going to put a sock in it, if we don't know when we're going to have a chance to talk, we're in a constant state of anxiety. We can't focus. So by BNI keeping its time promises, then people can trust. I know it's going to start on time. I know it's going to end on time. I know that person is going to stop in 2 minutes and then it's my turn. And it really does result in a purposeful, productive meeting, and people show up because they're not in a state of anxiety about whether this is going to be a waste of their time.
Well, we're out of time, and I think you had 1 or 2 more points. Do you want to throw those out real quick?
Okay, real quick is that I know people from around the world go to Burning Man. I would recommend that everyone look up on search the rules of Burning Man. Because, come on, you're out in the middle of the desert. It could be chaos. And yet they have rules about gifting. They have rules about picking up your trash. They actually have people on their hands and knees crawling around in the sand, picking up the smallest pieces of trash. So I suggest as an exercise, look up the rules of Burning Man and think about how we can adapt those rules for our club, for our company, for our culture, and ask people to vote on them, because it will create this trusted culture where people have each other's front and back.
Well, it's a great suggestion. And our policies for members have been voted on by the members. That's why we have a board of advisors. So that's exactly what we did to build the organization. Listen, we're out of time, Sam. And I didn't give your website last time verbally, but it will be on the transcript. Everyone, Sam's website is samhorn.com. That's SAMHORN, as in Nancy, samhorn.com. And I'm sure your book is highlighted right there on that front page, I'm guessing, Sam?
You would be right.
Okay. I really recommend you take a look at this book. It's a great book. Sam is an amazing human being. She has great content. And it's been a pleasure having you on for the second time, Sam. Thank you so much.
It's a joy. I hope people find it interesting and useful, Ivan.
They will. Back to you, Priscilla.
Great. I think that's it for this week. Thank you so much for the great information. This podcast is sponsored by MeisnerAudioPrograms.com. These audio programs will provide you with the tools and the inspiration to powerfully enhance your BNI experience. So check out the great material that's available to you at MeisnerPrograms.com, and then use the promo code IVAN50 for 50% off of everything. All of the proceeds go to the BNI Foundation. Thank you so much for listening. This is Priscilla Rice, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for another exciting episode of the official BNI podcast.